used in 15 years. Maybe they weren't cool people.
Welcome to Movie Recap Time. In the summer of 1992, a little girl called Rebecca is woken up by a noise coming from the swimming pool at her house. She goes to look out of the window and sees that the sound is coming from a toy boat floating on the water. She then runs to her brother Tommy's room and tells him she's found the little boat he lost in the pool. However, the young boy is ill and won't listen to his sister. Arriving at the pool, Rebecca uses a sieve to catch the little boat, which has sunk into the water. She is about to reach it, but feels a mysterious force pulling her to the bottom of the pool. Despite this, she soon pulls herself together and sees that her mother is calling her to get out of the pool. The girl manages to swim to the surface, but her mother is no longer around. Confused, she tries to reach the edge of the pool, but when she sees her brother's toy boat, Rebecca decides to go back and get it. Unfortunately, she is once again pulled by a strange entity and disappears into the pool without a trace. Nowadays, the Waller family, made up of Ray and Eve and their children Izzy and Elliot, are looking for a new home. In the past, Ray was a professional baseball player, but a serious injury kept him off the field, and now he's looking for a quiet place to live with his wife and children. The couple talks to the realtor, who shows them a beautiful home in an upscale neighborhood, but the rent isn't very affordable. The family continues their search until they find a huge house for sale. The realtor says that the property has been abandoned for some time. However, it is in good condition and has a huge swimming pool in the back. The family decides to take a look around, but Ray is more interested in the pool, which is covered by a tarpaulin. While watching more closely, he notices an old baseball and decides to pick it up, but ends up slipping and falling on the tarp. Because of his bone problem, Ray can't swim properly, and the tarp seems to trap him underwater. Fortunately, after much effort, and his family rushes to help him. Eventually, they give up on the idea of buying the house, and the next day, Eve takes her husband to yet another doctor's appointment. Unfortunately, the diagnosis is disheartening as Ray's condition has progressed from an injury to multiple sclerosis. In other words, the former player will have to stay away from baseball indefinitely and will only be allowed to practice lighter sports such as swimming. Because of this, after the consultation, Ray suggests buying the house with the pool, as it could be of great help in his recovery process. Eve agrees, and a few days later the family begins to move into their new home. Ray is tasked with removing all the dirt from the drain, but when he sticks his arm down to get it out, he ends up with a deep cut on his hand. Fortunately, Ray manages to get his arm out of the drain, but soon after, dark water starts leaking out, leaving everyone scared. Hours later, the couple calls a group of pool maintenance technicians, and the team leader tells them they're in luck. According to the technician, the pool is natural and self-sustaining, collecting water from an underground source, which is something unusual these days. Finally, he and his team clean the entire pool, and once it's ready and full of water, the family gets together to swim and enjoy a moment of relaxation. Ray soon begins to feel the benefits of the pool and feels that his body becomes lighter and more flexible in the water. He can't forget his old baseball career, and when evening comes, Eve looks at the household expenses, but soon decides to go back to the pool and relax for the rest of the evening. While bathing, she sees Elliot's cat watching her from afar, but he seems to be frightened by something. Even so, she continues swimming calmly until she thinks she sees Ray standing by the pool with his walking stick. Eve is startled, but when she looks again, no one is around. The night gets even stranger when the lights start to go out mysteriously, and Eve thinks it best to go back into the house. When she gets to the bedroom, she asks if her husband was in the pool, but he says he fell asleep in bed some time ago. But her cat is still scared around the pool. The animal lies down on the trampoline and sees a toy boat floating in the water, very similar to the one Rebecca had seen years ago. It is then revealed that this is the same house where the girl lived a few years ago until she mysteriously disappeared. Unfortunately, the next morning it seems that the cat also suffered the same fate, as the family finds only its collar floating in the water. Ray picks it up and goes to investigate inside the house, but he notices that after touching the water in the pool, the wound on his hand has completely disappeared. Even though he's surprised, Ray notices Elliot's sadness at having lost his pet in the middle of the night. He decides to swim in the pool again, apparently feeling much better than before. This improvement soon proves to be true, because when he returns for another routine examination, the doctor informs him that Ray is recovering in an unusual way. This news makes Ray and his wife very happy, because maybe one day he will resume his career in sport. Later, the family gathers at home, and Elliot invites his father to swim with him. Ray accepts and proposes that the two of them play at finding coins in the pool, but first, he needs to finish some weightlifting. Elliot goes ahead with one of his toys, but as soon as he sinks into the water, a coin is thrown into the pool. The young man thinks it was his father, but no one is around. Even so, he goes to pick up the coin, only for others to be thrown in front of him as if to guide him to the deepest part of the pool. One of them ends up falling into the drain, and as soon as he picks it up, he hears a girl's voice. He swims up to find out who called him, but again, he finds himself completely alone in the pool. Elliot believes it's just another bad joke by Izzy, but the girl's voice calls out to him again, and it seems to be coming from one of the openings in the pool. This voice belongs to Rebecca, the missing girl, and she asks the young man for help to find her mother, which has ended up inside the opening of the pool. Elliot reaches out and tries to take the doll, but as soon as he pulls it out, a destroyed hand grabs the young man. He is terrified but manages to free himself and runs to tell his mother what happened. However, when she checks the pool, she finds nothing but her son's toy floating in the water. Later, Eve goes to talk to her husband about what happened, but he believes it was just a figment of Elliot's imagination. In addition, Ray says that his son needs to make new friends and decides to organize a pool party and invite his schoolmates. Eve agrees with the idea. The next morning, Ray is invited to his son's school to teach the baseball team some tips on how to become professional players. Along with Ray, Eve and Izzy decide to watch Elliot play. Training begins, and when it's Elliot's turn, he manages to hit the ball on his first attempt. Afterwards, one of the coaches invites Ray to show off his batting skills, and despite his health condition, he accepts. In the first two throws, Ray can't hit the ball and falls to the ground because his bones are so weak. And on the third throw, Ray feels as if he's regaining his strength just as he did when he was in the pool. Then, just as he did in his glory days in the stadiums, Ray hits the ball with his bat and scores a home run, which leaves everyone impressed. The whole team rushes to congratulate the former player, but Elliot and even Izzy look on in confusion at what has just happened. At the end of the day, Eve and Ray decide to go for a romantic dinner and leave Izzy to look after her brother. As soon as they leave, the girl invites a friend from the swimming group to her house, and the two of them have fun in the pool playing Marco Polo. When it's Izzy's turn, her friend decides to play a joke and gets out of the pool while she tries to find him with her eyes closed. Just then, the pool lights start to go out, and behind Izzy, a monstrous entity is watching her from behind. She believes it to be her friend and decides to swim to the bottom of the pool to make sure. However, instead of him, she meets the creature, which grabs her foot and starts pulling her down to the bottom. Luckily, Izzy manages to break free from the entity and swims back to the surface, where she meets her friend. She runs scared to the edge of the pool, saying that someone has grabbed her foot, but he says he didn't see anyone but her in the water. But the girl's parents return from dinner and her friend is forced to leave before they find him. Despite what he said before leaving, the next morning, Elliot goes to his sister's room and says he noticed that she was scared after getting out of the pool. He knows that the girl also saw something sinister, but Izzy prefers to keep it a secret so as not to worry their parents. She makes Elliot promise that he won't talk about it anymore. Later, the family organizes a pool party. While the guests are enjoying themselves, Elliot decides to put a hidden camera in the bedroom window to capture any suspicious events. At this point, Ray looks for his son to swim in the pool, but ends up bumping into Ty, one of the team's players. He asks for the former player's autograph on the ball he hit in practice, and when he looks at it closely, Ray is surprised to see that the force of his shot has caused part of the leather of the ball to tear. However, he soon puts this aside and sees two boys in a contest of strength in the pool while being carried on their shoulders by their parents. Ray then invites Ty to join in and carries him on his shoulders to start the contest. At the same time, Eve finishes preparing the food and talks to the realtor about the house. She says that Elliot got scared the other day when he was in the pool and that she herself noticed some strange things, like the light suddenly going out. The realtor tries to deflect the subject, but Eve notices that she is hiding something and insists on the truth. The woman then admits that, in the past, a family lived in the same house and that a little girl called Rebecca disappeared into the pool. Since then, the house has been abandoned and no one has wanted to buy it because they think it's haunted. The entity manifests itself again. It takes the form of a black mist, which comes out of the drain and goes straight into Ray's body, completely overpowering him. He then starts walking backward towards the bottom of the pool, causing Ty to be covered by the water and start drowning. The young man tries to get free, but Ray holds him tightly and no one around realizes what's happening. Fortunately, Elliot sees everything through the camera and runs to his mother to warn her. However, before she can do anything, Ty's parents notice that their son is in danger and rush to rescue him. The young man is saved by his father, who is startled to see the young man's injured legs. In addition, Ray seems to have drowned in the pool, and his family rushes to help him. After this bizarre event, the police investigate, but thanks to Eve's pleas, Ty's parents decide not to press charges. Nevertheless, they order Ray to stay away from their son and not to go near the team's training ground. Faced with this event that almost ended in tragedy, Eve has no doubt that the pool is haunted. So, without a second thought, she packs her things and calls her family to leave the house as soon as possible. Ray, however, refuses, saying that living there was the best thing that ever happened to him, and the pool is restoring his health. However, as soon as the vehicle moves, Ray starts to feel sick, as if he were drowning from the inside out. As a result, his family is forced to take him back home, and Eve despairs when she sees that her husband seems to be possessed by what inhabits the pool. She decides to investigate the origins of the house further and discovers that there have been more cases of missing persons at the pool. She then goes to the home of Mrs. Summers to gather more information. When she gets there, Eve talks about what's been happening at the pool and asks what happened to Rebecca. At first, the woman refuses to talk about it, but changes her mind and tells her about the legend of a wishing fountain known as Dagami. According to the story, the fountain is capable of fulfilling a person's greatest wishes. However, a life must be given in exchange for them to come true. Whether by fate or chance, the swimming pool at the house draws water from this fountain, and so the entity that fulfills these wishes inhabits the place. Finally, Mrs. Summers reveals that on the fateful night of Rebecca's disappearance, she was possessed by this evil entity. Internally, she wanted her sick child to be cured, but the price to be paid was the life of her other daughter. Eve is horrified to realize that Mrs. Summers sacrificed one child in exchange for the other. Even so, she asks the woman to tell her how to prevent the same thing from happening to Ray and his children. However, before she can say anything, the woman starts to feel sick, as if she were drowning, just like Ray. Eve tries to help her, and her eyes, nose, and mouth start leaking dark water. Frightened, Eve flees the scene and heads home, fearing the worst. She tries to reach Ray on the phone, but he is in the shower, once again being dominated by the demonic creature from the pool. Minutes later, Izzy and Elliot return from school and call for their parents, but neither of them answers their call. Izzy decides to look for them in the garage, and Elliot fills a glass with water. But before he can drink, he hears the sound of his missing cat. The young man goes after him to the pool and leaves his glass on the counter, which is pushed by an invisible force until it falls to the ground. Elliot continues to approach the pool and sees the shadow of his cat on a float in the water. He climbs onto the trampoline to try and reach him, and without realizing it, the pool lights start flashing and the canvas crank moves on its own. Finally, the young man reaches the float, but instead of finding his cat, he sees the malevolent entity, which pulls him into the water. Inside the house, Izzy hears her brother's screams and runs towards him. But the tarpaulin covers the entire pool, and she can't turn the crank. And seeing that the two of them don't have enough strength to remove the tarp, Eve jumps into the water in search of her son. At that moment, Izzy runs into the kitchen to ask for help, but ends up slipping on the broken glass and injuring her hand with a piece of it. But there is no sign of him, just a dark spot around the drain. Eve then returns to the surface, ties her body to a hose, and swims towards the portal. Little does she know that her daughter is also in danger, for in front of the girl, Ray appears, possessed by the demonic entity. He knocks his daughter to the ground and tells her that Elliot has been chosen to be the sacrifice in the pool. Izzy doesn't accept this and hides in the garage, with her father coming after her. Back at the pool, Eve manages to get through the portal and finds Elliot unconscious in the water. She soon rescues him, but as soon as she swims back to the surface, several of the souls trapped in the water try to stop her. Eve manages to escape them but ends up getting lost in the darkness and can't find her way back. Then Rebecca's spirit appears before her and shows her the way back to the real world. Thanks to the girl's help, Eve manages to return safely, but Elliot isn't breathing. She tries to give him a heart massage to revive him, but Ray comes up from behind and attacks her, saying that she can't stop the sacrifice. This seems to be the tragic end of the Waller family, but Izzy appears holding her father's baseball bat and hits him with several blows. Ray is knocked to the ground, and for a brief moment, he breaks free of the entity's grasp and regains consciousness. The family then decides to flee the house, but as they move away from the pool, Elliot begins to be attacked by the power of the evil presence in the water. Seeing that his son will perish if a sacrifice isn't made, Ray apologizes to everyone and walks toward the water. Izzy tries to stop him, but her father decides to offer his life to spare his loved ones. Then, as a last act of heroism, Ray swims towards the shadows covering the water and is sucked into them. His family has finally been saved from a tragic fate, although the price was too high. Later, Eve, Elliot, and Izzy gather in front of the swimming pool, and their mother suggests that they sell the house and restart their lives elsewhere. However, her children say that the best way to honor their father's sacrifice is to prevent other people from falling victim to the entity. Eve agrees to the idea and finally empties the water from the pool and sends an excavator to cover it completely, leaving the curse of the wishing fountain dormant forever. Thank you for watching. Make sure to hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an exciting story. More thrilling recaps are on the way, and you won't want to miss them. Drop a comment below and let me know your favorite moment from this story. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Stay tuned, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one. Movie Recap Time Team.